Alright, welcome to BS Homestead. Normally people, when they have overheated machines, they end up having to basically take all of the liquid cooling stuff apart and refill it and whatever, but this is kind of a trick. You just move everything lower where the inlet is for putting water in, and then you just basically drip some water in, run the system a little bit, drip some more water in, run the system, and shake the air to get the air to come to the top, and just keep putting water in, and that allows you to get rid of all the air so there's not air pockets building up where your processors are, causing your system to overheat. So, and I just use a little bottle of distilled water and I just drip some drops in there, and you're supposed to use their fancy cooling, but the real issue is the air more than anything. You do not want air in that system, so some distilled water will do just fine. So you just screw in this cap right here, and make sure you don't get water on your system, and then you can use a Allen wrench to unscrew it. And so all I do is turn off the switch and take out the main power cable, and I have to be careful to make sure have the notch pushed down, otherwise you might. And basically run it for a little while, get the air to come up, fill it up, run it for a little while, move this around, just to basically try to get the air to work its way up. And every time you fill it up, it gets a little bit more of that air towards the surface. And I just basically used an entire bottle of this the last time, so it's got a lot of air in it. It may take a little bit of time, but it's a lot easier than taking this all apart and putting new, heat sink paste on there and reattaching all those and trying to set up a separate power to run all this stuff without running your motherboard and overheating your processor and getting it all reattached and hope that you don't just even more air into it. So it's just, to me, this is easier. So that's why I'm doing it this way. And this is the third time I've ran it for a little while, shake it around and aired it up again. But I just, screw it on and just dab the water off to prevent the water from getting on anything. So we just plug this back in, just power everything. Okay, and then just run it, put it on. Flip the switch. You can hear the water just flowing through it better now. As it's more and more full, you can changing the angles of the cables and turn it off again. And then the hardest part is getting this cable out. Trying to be careful not to damage the motherboard. I think going side to side works a little bit better on that. Some water can eventually seep out or work its way through some of the plastics and stuff. So you might want to do this every so often, but especially I would do it whenever you get a new computer for sure, because this one came basically not done right, with too much air, and it was overheating since the very beginning. And I've been playing with a lot of stuff to try to deal with the high temperatures, and eventually this is dealt with, reducing the clock speeds, applying new thermal paste, and now this. So, oh, and one other thing, you can use a little bit like this instead of taking out the cable to the motherboard, power cable to the motherboard every time. And this just because pulling that in and out is just a pain in the butt. So you can just use this to a pair of pliers and you kind of break it loose, and then you can just twist it loose with your fingers. And also, if you take off the radiator and bring it down lower, it makes it easier to get the air bubbles up to here so that you can fill it in. And this part is slightly lower than that, so it's not too good nail. I had to do this extra because there was some air being caught in the radiator that I needed to get out, and I was able to get out some of that extra water by doing this. You can see now, like, the temperature is actually fairly low. I'm talking 31, 38 degrees. Like, before it was like 80, 70s, 80s. And now it's just way, way lower. So, but that wasn't the problem. So even after filling it all the way, it was still overheating to 75 up to 85 degrees Celsius. And shutting off my computer. So what I found out, I was finally decided, fine, I'm going to take the whole thing apart, and this is the crap that was inside of it. You can see this blue powdery soot that clogged all of the fins and all the other stuff in there. So whoever the heck put that stuff in there, the coolant in there, put a bunch of crap in there. So I wouldn't trust a lot of the coolants out there. All I did is use a little bit of distilled water and some antifreeze, and just a little bit, you know, tiny amount as a anti-corrosive and biocide. But just distilled water and a little biocide will do the trick. And you can see now my temperature is way lower. It's like 40 degrees right now. And I just used a really thin layer of paste, thermal compound, to put it back. And that's a success.